And tonight is going to be a shorter talk and a longer meditation. This is the last Thursday of the month, so this is what we do anyways. But it fits well because what we want to do is a compassion meditation, which is going to be a little bit of a guided meditation, and then you can go into a regular meditation. So I'll talk about the details of the given type of meditation that I'm talking about when we actually sit to meditate. But for now, I'll just talk generally about compassion. You had a great question before, like when I'm meditating, I have a hard time, focusing, but the harder part is like keeping the other things out. So you're not even talking about like distracting thoughts. You're talking about like the sense of what's going on around you in the dojo, the sounds that you hear, the little things that you feel, the smells of the delicious Persian food wafting up from the floor. I'm sure you're going to be thinking about food all night. Kai has been fasting all day. So the thing I'm going to invite you to do tonight, which is very much in keeping with the theme of compassion and empathy, is instead of trying to force everything out, you're going to invite everything in. And this is not really a different kind of technique from what we normally do. It's more maybe a different way of thinking about it. So if you think of meditation as, or you experience meditation as a kind of forceful thing, or like of course, like a chore. It's not going to be interesting, or it's not going to be fun. If you're feeling like you're resisting, if meditation feels like resistance, it's going to be hard work, and it's not going to get you where we want to go. Because resistance is a thing. It's something. And what we want in meditation is simultaneously everything and no thing. And you can get at it. You can get at everything through nothing, and you can get at nothing through everything. And I know that's confusing. I'll do my best to explain it, but this is the kind of a thing you just kind of, at some level, have to experience. This is different from resistance, where it's like I'm trying to force myself to nothing by doing something really hard. And that will basically leave us with an attachment to resistance. And it's kind of like trying to gut out your meditation by sitting there and thinking, don't think, don't think, don't think. You idiot, why do you keep thinking? And that's all just thought that you're having, right? So, when we sit and we breathe, and we just basically allow the thoughts to come, but then we let them go, that's a very different experience. And it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily looking for thoughts, although that might kind of be what ends up happening in your meditation. If you're trying to recognize the thoughts, it's kind of like you're looking for thoughts. But it really is just I'm sitting and allowing them to come. This is kind of fostering a level of awareness, but openness. If you're not open because you're resisting, you're shut off, then you are not going to be aware, right? And what might be happening is not even outside, but almost at the same time of that resistance kind of, your attempt at resistance will be thoughts and things that are happening at the same time. And you're not even keeping them away, you're just focusing so much on the resistance that you don't notice them as much. Versus, you're open, and the first way that I'm talking about resistance is like the thoughts trying to come in the door, and you're like this, like pushing against the door as hard as you can to not let the thoughts in, and they're like thumping against the door, and you're like feeling them, and it's a whole thing. Versus the thoughts are banging down your door, and you just open the door, you invite them right in, and then you go to your back door, and you open that door, and the thoughts just march their way right out your brain. and then you have an empty house to enjoy. If that is the way that you're experiencing meditation, is going to be no resistance, still awareness, you're kind of welcoming in the thoughts. I talk about this when we discuss the idea of acceptance as well. And acceptance is very much a part of compassion and empathy. If you are attempting to be a great friend, a great partner in the dojo, a great person in a relationship, like me trying to be a great father right now, all of that has to mean that I understand what the other person is going through, and I accept that that is who they are. And at some point, I try to get to a place where I love them exactly the way that they are, right? My daughter, she is amazing in every conceivable way, and also terrible in so many ways. And I love her exactly the way that she is. I wouldn't want her to lose her attitude. She's doing this thing right now where she just says no to everything, and she says no even when she means yes. She goes to reach for a toy, and she goes no, and she grabs it. And clearly, I've been doing something with too many no's as I've been doing daddy daycare during the day. But if I don't accept that, for example, if I don't accept that this is kind of her attitude and this funny thing that she does with no, and instead I start going, no, don't do that, no. What do you think she's going to do? She's going to do even more no's. It's just going to be no's until the end of time, until the end days. So instead, I try to recognize and accept, right, and love her exactly the way that she is. So it's kind of the same with our own thoughts and our own minds. If we can't have compassion for ourselves, we can't recognize and accept our own mental states and our own emotions, then it's going to be very difficult to do it for somebody else. But it does start with that kind of open awareness and acceptance. Now, acceptance doesn't mean that things are going to stay this way always. It means that we know and accept where they are now, and then it means that we can then choose where we want to go from there. Now, it's the same thing as being a great partner in the dojo. This is my version of a short talk. It's almost over, I swear. So I'm trying to be a great partner, and I see my partner throwing a front kick like this, right? I accept that that's where they are right now, and I don't say, that's a perfect front kick. Don't change anything. You're amazing. Because that's also not being a great partner. Being a great partner is also explaining how they can improve upon it. So I see that their front kick looks like that, and then I say, I love how you keep your hands up. Keep doing that. What I want you to try to do is snap your foot back instead of dropping your foot. And none of that is me judging them and thinking, wow, you're a bad person because you can't do a front kick that well yet. And part of what I like to do is recognize how I used to throw a front kick exactly like that, or how I still make some errors with my front kick. And maybe I'll see somebody else doing something that I recognize, oh, I've been doing that the whole time myself. And so we can always learn from each other. But it's from a space of being non-judgmental, a space of non-attachment, and we're recognizing, accepting, and then just kind of letting it go. If we're on the other side, we're the one throwing the front kick like this, and I thought, I've got the world's best front kick, and then somebody tells me that that's not the world's best front kick, I also don't want to hold on to that and be like, this person is a jerk. I can't believe they're telling me how to do my front kick right. We want to accept it and then move on. And this is, in martial arts, so important, because if somebody hits us and we get attached to that and we spend the rest of class thinking about how we got hit and worrying about how we're going to get hit next, then we're not able to be in the present. And it's the same thing outside of class. We're always trying to recognize, accept, make whatever little fixes we can, and then let go. So, compassion. If you want to be a great partner in the dojo, you have to also recognize, be empathetic, understand what this person is dealing with. Maybe you've got a person who hasn't eaten anything in 24 hours, and you're like, I've got to treat them in a way that is really helpful, right? If I'm grappling with Kaya, and I'm just like, smashing her into the ground because I know that she's feeling low energy today. That's not having a lot of compassion. Now, if Kaya's got lots of energy and she's looking really good, and I don't smash her a little bit, that's also not having compassion because I know what she needs is to be pushed, to be challenged a little bit. So let's also not get it twisted. A lot of people think compassion and empathy means that we're only nice and we're not challenging. Well, that would be the same thing as looking at somebody's awful front kick and saying that's a perfect front kick. We have to kind of help each other. But when we do it from a space of compassion and empathy versus from a place of judgment, versus from a place of ego, right? The ego can't really have compassion. The ego can't really be empathetic. The ego is all wrapped up in itself. And that's why the article that I wrote for this newsletter is titled, "It's Not About You." We make everything about us. This is where most of our pain and suffering comes from. This is where most of the problems of the ego or our perceived problems of the ego come from, is because we're making it all about us. But when we're able to step out of that and just recognize that in this moment, I'm just all about my partner. I'm all about this person that I'm listening to right now, and I try to let go of any part of myself that's kind of in the way. So, in tonight's meditation, which we're going to start in like a minute, we are going to practice this, and I will take a moment to point out that for some of us, what we need to do is practice having firm boundaries, and sometimes compassion and empathy can feel like it's breaking that down. In my experience as somebody who started with a very strong sense of separateness and good boundaries, that has never been an issue for me, but I can understand absolutely, because I'm empathetic and compassionate, I can understand that it could be an issue for some of you. So I'm not saying that being empathetic means that you completely disappear yourself and you're not recognizing boundaries and you're just letting this person do whatever. That's distinctly different from what I'm at least attempting to say. But it does mean that instead of my ego being in charge and having all the walls and the separateness being the main way that I'm experiencing life and experiencing this person and experiencing this conversation that I'm having, I'm trying to, put myself in their shoes and really understand what they're going through. And in that way, it might feel like part of me or all of me is disappearing. And as long as you're able to bring yourself back, which you will certainly be able to do, as soon as they say something that you really don't like, it's going to happen automatically. But this should not be a permanent thing that you guys really need to worry about. That said, if you do find yourself disappearing in meditation, in a conversation where you really are trying to be totally empathetic and compassionate, and you feel yourself just being completely sucked into what this other person is saying, and you're like, when I started this conversation, I had my strong, beliefs about this, and now I'm totally 180, and I feel like I've completely lost any sense of who I am. Just try to ground yourself in something that is physical and real, right? Your own breath is a wonderful thing. It's not very physical, but it's very real. A physical thing around you, right? So anytime you feel like you're just starting to float away and you're worried about completely losing it, just open your eyes and look at a thing and just see, that's a cushion, right? That's a thing. If I can go and actually pick up a thing, then that's great. So that's kind of an aside. Try not to worry too much about that. So let's sit comfortably. And you can turn off the lights like normal, sir, but I'm going to continue talking. Maybe leave this light on a little bit so that people can still see me. So we're going to start in your normal posture for meditation, which again you want to be with a straight back. Pull, your eyes are closed and upturned to the point between your eyebrows. Your hands can be together or separate, but they should be palms up. And from here, Let's take a couple of deep breaths to relax and find ourselves in a very solid but relaxed physical state. So start with all the breath out. Breathe in through the nose. Hold it for a second or two, and then breathe out through the nose or the mouth. Another deep breath in. Hold. Out. In. Hold. Out. One more deep breath. Now you can allow yourself to keep breathing deeply, but instead of manipulating your breath, now you're going to focus on your thoughts. And this is going to have a visualization element to it. If you would like to visualize kind of matching your breath, you can synchronize the visualization with your breathing, but it's not necessary. And if that's causing you too much trouble, you can just let go of the breath and just focus on the visualization. So, to begin, just place in your mind's eye the image of a person right now who you feel the most close to. I don't mean physically the most close to, I mean emotionally, somebody who you really know, and preferably somebody who you can fairly easily feel empathy and compassion for. Maybe the person you feel very close to right now, you're like in a fight with them and you can't do that. Okay, so choose somebody who you can try to visualize or just imagine whatever they're going through right now in life. This is a good friend or family member, and maybe most things are going great for them, but they've got one or two real challenges. And you can imagine those challenges, you can imagine how it makes them feel. And again, you can take on a little bit of that suffering, take on a little bit of that experience, the feelings that they're having. And then you can try to send them, for lack of a better phrase, good vibes. So you are imagining that things are going well for them. You are sending them good feelings, maybe healing feelings or thoughts. And so you've gone through this with somebody who you're close to, who you want to easily be able to feel empathy and compassion for. Send them that compassionate vibration. And after you've spent a few moments with that person, you can move on to the next person. Maybe it's one, or maybe it's a small group of people, a group of family members or friends. It's a little bit easier if you just choose one person, maybe the person that you're the second closest to right now. You can still pretty easily empathize with. Then focus on their experience of life right now. What are they going through? Try to feel it more than just logic or language. Try to actually allow yourself to feel. Maybe you'll have a sensation somewhere in your body, your stomach, and your heart. in your throat, somewhere where you're really feeling what they're going through. Maybe you remember the last time you were going through the same thing as them. You remember how that felt. And then try to relax into that. Again, send them positive, healing thoughts, feelings, and allow yourself to feel those same feelings of healing, acceptance, and letting go. And then move on to the next person. Or, again, a small group of people. So you can do this at your own pace. The idea is we're going to slowly but surely expand this circle of compassion. And maybe you'll get to a group of people who you don't really know that well personally, but you can kind of understand what they're experiencing. A group of people who you're connected to, or maybe a group of people you're not actually connected to. Maybe it's a whole country or a whole ethnic group, whole group of people that you know are suffering in some way. Try to feel for them. And then eventually widen it even further. So, every human being on the planet has some similar ways that we feel and experience life and suffer and move through. So try to expand your circle eventually to include all human beings. And if you want to get a little sci-fi with it, you can try to imagine how aliens must feel. Or you can extend your empathy to include things that don't generally have feelings. Inanimate objects, planets, stars, or whatever is out there. Some kind of cosmic consciousness, God, the divine. So just spend a few more minutes in this compassion meditation. Really try to allow yourself to feel this, so it's not just a intellectual exercise. This is a feeling where you truly are connecting and feeling. Now, whenever you're done, you can just release that visualization and return to the breath. When your mind wanders, you can have a little compassion for yourself and just release the thought and come back to the breath.